Hi, everyone. Welcome to AI in Focus, where we bring you behind the scenes at Thoughtbot as we work on AI technologies and AI-focused products. Today, we're continuing our work on ReadySetGo, our agentic shaping sprint experience. As you may recall, we recently launched a focused alpha. Thank you to everyone that has tried it so far, and thank you even more for all the valuable feedback that you've shared with us. In this episode, I'm joined by Design Director Vendela, and we're going to digest that feedback using a special matrix so we can decide where to prioritize our efforts. As we're moving towards a public beta, we want to turn all that experience that our users have had into actionable next steps so that we can launch a product that people are excited about and want to share with others. All right. Vendela, hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Glad you could be here today. It's fun, and I'm really excited to shift a little bit away from the more technical focus programming into thinking about Ready Set Go as a bigger product, because for all the great programming you put into the thing, without the design behind it, it's not gonna work. So for the viewers that haven't seen what Ready Set Go looks like so far, let's do a quick, if you could just do a quick little walkthrough, and then we can jump into the feedback that we've gotten on it.
That sounds great. And I'll just caveat this by saying that I'm joined by a loud lawnmower that is outside my window right now. Hopefully we'll be wrapping up very soon, but I apologize if you hear some humming in the background. All right, so for anyone who hasn't seen Ready, Set, Go before, we have our sprint overview here when you kind of land in the product, and you can see that we've got 3 main phases, and each of those has different steps that you go through with our agent as you run through it. And so you have your artifacts that build up over time as you continue through a sprint here. This sprint hasn't been touched yet. It's just brand new, so there's not much here yet. And if we go into the sprint here, you can see that your main area is for chatting, and then you've got your artifacts over on the right here, and just a way to see where you're at in the sprint over on the left. And so you go through the experience just chatting through here, and yeah, hopefully that gives you some context as we kind of digest the feedback.
Yeah, excellent. And for the viewers that don't know, what we're trying to create here, what we're working on, what we're creating is to not necessarily duplicate or replace the in-person shaping sprint experience, but to make it more accessible, because not everyone can take a week off to do this, or even 3 days. And so what the experience usually looks like, I've gotten to join a few of them, and there's some of my favorite times of working at Thoughtbot is being in these, because you get to unleash all your creativity and think about something that doesn't exist yet. So usually it's someone is leading the sprint. Typically it'll be a designer. You probably have multiple designers. You may or may not have a developer, and most importantly, you have the founder talking about their idea. So what we're reducing it to here is, okay, it's the founder, it's you sitting in front of this talking about this idea you have, and before you start building it, which is the most important part, is to make sure you're building the right thing. So that's what we're trying to recreate. And I think from there, anything else you want to say about it, or should we jump into the feedback?
No, I think you covered it. I think there's a lot of people trying to build all sorts of different products these days because it's so accessible to use all the tooling that's available now. And I think, are encouraging people to just, who are really serious about an idea, to pause and go through some steps beforehand that we really believe in, and make sure that this is worth bringing to the market and doing it right. So it feels really exciting to be working on this.
Awesome. All right, let's get to it. What do people think?
All right, let's see here. So what I did before this was pull out a bunch of the feedback that we got directly from running the alpha. And we've got some encouraging things about what's working, and then some areas that we can improve. And just to kind of save us some time live here, I divided those into some categories for us to take a look at. but I
Okay.
figured so that we can pat ourselves on the back, we can start by looking at what's working well so far and what people really
Okay.
enjoy about the product. And it also helps us to keep that in mind in terms of any changes we want to make. We want to make sure that we don't lose any of this good stuff that's already happening.
Nice.
So this is still pretty small, right? Let me zoom in a little bit. All right, so we don't have to read each of these individually, but some great ones to pull out here. The artifacts that that ReadySetGo produced were better than this user could have produced on their own, and it would have taken longer if they did it on their own. They,
and just to jump in, because the artifacts is kind of like an unusual word. Like what it really means, like right now, are text files.
Yeah.
That might be things like, what are things you've thought about but we don't want to focus on now? Like that's our back burner. Right. Assumptions is a list of things that you think are true, and maybe like your whole business idea depends on it. But if it hasn't been validated, like maybe the whole thing falls apart. Like, you know, if your assumption is people are going to enjoy getting, instead of a pizza delivered to their house, all the ingredients for a pizza delivered to their house so they can put it together and make it, that's an assumption. And maybe it's a great idea, maybe it's not. And so as you go through the process, these artifacts are automatically created, added to, changed as the agent discovers, talks with you about like, what are the things you're thinking about? So thanks. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for calling that out. Sometimes you forget that people aren't in this product all the time. So yeah, generally it worked well end to end, no major bugs. It probed for a broad range of ideas. It felt like you were synthesizing the rough ideas together with the tool. It offered genuinely new ideas, not just agreement. Asked the right questions. It pushed this person on a few areas and wouldn't let them take the easy way out. That's definitely what we want here. And that, let's see, it was good at spotting chicken and egg problems, good judgment distinguishing between different audience types. The speed of the responses was great. And liked seeing the research being pulled in. And it felt empowering. So those are all really great things that people got out of this experience and felt like was working really well for them.
That's really great. A couple I wanted to call out. So for me also, I'm seeing the feedback for the first time today, right now. So if we look at the one, if you go up just a little bit, that one on the right felt natural for anyone used to long guided LLM conversations. That has been one of like my personal particular interests, and I've engaged in many long guided LLM conversations. And so like, I'm really glad that through all the different instructions that we're giving our agent, that is staying true. That feeling of naturalness is the most important thing in terms of having like an experience that you come out of really well. So I'm glad we're hitting that. Again, as always, every week, I like to call out to Kevin, who came up with the initial set of instructions that we have been iterating on, and they really give the agent just like everything it needs to do what it needs to do.
Were you the one saying recently that you tried really hard to get the agent to do something else?
I did, absolutely. And it was actually like one of the things that it said to me was, you know, I don't actually have a rule against this, but based on all the instructions I've been given, I'm pretty sure I understand what their intent was, and it's not this thing you're asking about. And like again and again, and I pushed on it. And you know, like brief break to anyone building an AI chat product. This part is really important. Like you need to sit down with your agent and try and not do the thing it's supposed to do. There's a lot of safety things, a lot of security things. This should be a key part of if you're developing an AI chat, you need to push on it. And we're also using, as well as that, like as well as just like very detailed instructions and guidance, we're also using some open source gems to help protect against like, you know, actual like vulnerability things where it's trying to do like prompt injection kind of attacks or unexpected input. So that's important too. But bringing it back high level with all that, that it feels natural is really important for the user experience. There's one more. Let's see. The structure and guidance was helpful for someone building solo. That's really good. And that's built on like this is built on our actual in-person, right, shaping sprint experience. So we're trying to replicate that as closely as we can. So this is good. That structure and guidance is coming through. And then maybe it was, can you go to the last line or the last couple lines? Yeah, I guess the liked landing on an initial design feel, not just words, right? Like this is more than a chat. And even where we are with the interface, like I think there's more coming. But it was important to not just be a chat, not just like that back. Like, yes, that's the primary interaction, but it's the things around it that give you a feel and like put you in the right mind space, I think, to like actually build something. So these are all great. I'm really glad to hear these.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like we're on the right track.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm looking at this one too that helped narrow a vague idea down to an MVP feature set. I mean, that's one of the biggest goals we have when working with a client on a sprint, in person or virtually, to really take the kind of blurriness out of it and focus in on something that feels concrete and achievable.
Yeah, actually, to build off that one, there was one up about 2 rows. It's the one in that second row. Didn't suggest anything I hadn't already considered.
Yeah.
Reassuring in a good way. Because like that's the flip side of someone that's like, oh, I've got this idea and haven't done any thinking. This is, I've done a lot of thinking and I want to see what else is there. Maybe I missed something.
Yeah.
And so at first I read that, I was like, is that a compliment? But then I realized I think it was, right? Because it means that our agent is understanding the problem at a deep level, at the level of a founder who has done heavy thinking so far. And so that is like a bit of confirmation for that founder that, yeah, you're not missing anything. And it also means that ReadySetGo like works across that whole spectrum of founders coming to it.
For sure. And I think we get a lot of clients coming to us with this mindset as well. It's that I want somebody professional to assess what I've come up with here. And sometimes the result of that is, yes, you've done a great job. You did a bunch of research. Your assumptions were kind of spot on. But now we've checked. And so rather than just feeling like, oh, it's probably pretty good, we have that research behind it and the validation to go really confident into something like an MVP build. So this is definitely something that happens a lot in real life, I guess, if you will.
Awesome. All right, where can we grow?
All right, let's see over here. So I can kind of go through this by a few categories, and they're in no particular order here on this board. And just to zoom out, you can see how many we have, and I'll just go through each one. So we've got some user experience improvements here, and some of these kind of blur the lines between a few different categories. But a lot of these center around showing progress, buttons, or things that they expected were buttons, but weren't actually clickable, or maybe weren't clickable at a certain time they expected them to be. Kind of wondering if they were done at the end, which is very valid, and wondering kind of overall about the experience. Can I click in and do this section first, or do I have to go through it in order? How far along am I? Some naming discrepancies, it's called this thing over here and we named it something else over here. And so these are really good for us to see that people are reacting to them, and hearing that it's a big deal for somebody and causes confusion is really helpful for us, because then we know that's something great we can do to improve the product. I mean, making sure some titles are the same in a few places is pretty low effort for us and improves their experience. So that's great to hear. We had a few bugs where the sprint kind of got like hung up and you had to re-prompt it to get it going again. some things like that. So those are also good. Obviously, we want to tackle those sooner rather than later. And we've actually already done that for a few of these. So I'll get into that more later. This category is maybe a little controversial. It's like nice to have some suggestions. Some of these might be like more important than a nice to have for some users, right? So, but this is just what I called it for now. So having more than one sprint per account, which is something we actually have already built out, suggests that users take a little break through it, having explainers for what some of these artifacts are and why they're important. I mean, that might go into like the UX category here.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, this is a little fuzzy, but maybe auto naming the sprint. And somebody said it might not be the best match if you've already deeply researched and built the thing, which maybe it's not, you know, that maybe that's not the point of this product. And I think it's okay that we have a specific audience and not everybody will match that.
Yeah. Okay. This is great.
So this one I called What's Next, and this is a few people pointing out that they weren't sure whether it was over or what to do next. There wasn't a clear action item, and that's something we should definitely tackle. It's a good one.
Yep.
Let me just go down here. We've got some design and UI pieces. So this is, you know, there was like a layout overflow problem when you scrolled a certain way. Something not being clickable, the font sizing, the steps were named slightly different things versus what was in the chat. Clarity around a button, another sort of like, is this a nav item? Is this not? So some things like that. And that, again, it's like between that and the UX, I think the experience of feeling confused and then also wanting to click on things and some little bugs is great feedback there for us to consider.
Yeah, and one thing I want to jump in for our viewers, like, excuse me, as we're going through these specific ones, you might be thinking, how does this apply to me? And the idea is, as we're like going through these things, I would feel very certain that your users probably have similar feedback just about like different parts of your own features. And so like I would encourage you to try to draw the parallels between what people are saying about this product and then what's the thing that you want to build, or what's the thing that you've already built and that's working. And so like to try to take our analysis as a meta kind of way of, well, how should I approach feedback for my product?
Yeah, and I think we're going to get into this after we sort of summarize here, but it's really figuring out like what are the most important signals, where is the most meaning in this feedback. People are going to have different preferences, you know, maybe somebody didn't like the color of something in our app or something like that, and how do you kind of decide, is that really important, or should we leave that alone for now until we hear more about it?
Sure.
All right, so this category is time and fatigue. So this is a few people feeling like they kind of hit a point where they'd spent a lot of time on it and it was feeling a bit exhausting to go through the experience. So the time estimate didn't feel accurate. A lot of people spent more time in it than what we estimated. There's some responses that feel like a wall of text, and so not being able to skim through something is a bit tiring. And then maybe having checkpoints or sections that are feel a little bit more complete as you go through, so that you feel a sense of maybe accomplishment or something like that. And then it felt like the LLM, it was maybe a little bit repetitive in certain sections. So it was bringing back research that you'd already read about and skimmed and digested, and then bringing it up in like a further step in the sprint. So a bit verbose and repetitive.
Okay. Those all feel really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something that affects the experience. So these are specific to the AI or the LLM, the agent, whatever we want to call it. So this, we want it to default to gender neutral language. There was somebody who noticed, you know, instead of parents or guardians, they were calling it moms. So we want it to feel relevant for everybody. There was 2 comments here about it feeling sycophantic. It's a common feedback
Mhm.
around LLMs and how they talk to you in general. This one could maybe fit in a different category, but asked questions that led the user to guess
Mm.
or invent facts instead of researching them. I think that one's really important and interesting. This
Yeah.
doesn't feel like something we would want our product to do. Um, and so, yeah, figuring out how to maybe get the LLM to identify when it's doing that or something. Then it references steps by numbers instead of what that step was called, which isn't as easy for users to understand what it's referring to. And then we had one which included an inappropriate stereotype about mothers-in-law and weight. Um, and we actually already tackled that one, which I noted on our matrix here coming up in a minute. But Louis, did you want to break for a second and talk about that now, or you want to get into it a little later?
Yeah, actually, let's talk about it now, just because, like, before we get
Yeah.
into like the work of moving these moving these stickies to the matrix. Um, Actually, can you zoom out to the whole like AI,
Sure.
the whole AI group here? So, um, Tess worked on one of our developers worked on that first ticket in conjunction with the last ticket, and so like that one's actually about to be fixed. And it's the thing I wanted to call out about it is like when working with AI, the big thing is like the agents kind of do their own thing. Like, yes, you can give them instructions. Um, Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes they acknowledge the instructions and remember it for a while and then forget it. Like, there's a lot here around AI development that makes this, on a whole, a really challenging problem to solve. And it seems like one that anyone building any kind of, um, I'll just say like, not just like a simple customer service like chatbot, but anything that's going to like engage with you for a long time, it feels like you're more and more likely to run into something along these lines. Um, as far as what we did, so for that first ticket and the last one, or for that first ticket and the last one of the things we found is that there was at least one spot in our instructions where, just by the way it was worded, it was like, I think it was like Sarah, a yoga instructor, was like, it was putting into its instructions already like presupposing like you have a feminine sounding name, you're putting like you're naming a category instead of keeping it generic. um and for some of the others like the M dashes, similarly, like uh we've done work where we're like, oh look, our instructions are actually have things that are like have M dashes or have it's not this, it's that kind of parallel. Like it wasn't literally that, but we might have given it the instructions, you know, you shouldn't do it like this, you should do it like that. We're like, oh, we're actually priming it to follow that pattern because really that's all it has is the whole context of this whole conversation with our instructions at the top. And one of the things that you also fight is like, we have to have a really long prompt here for the agent to act like this. It's not just you're an expert product sprint designer. Like these are, in some cases, hundreds of lines of here's how you act in this particular step. Here's what the goals are of this step of the shaping sprint. And so in there, trying to also give it instructions. Sometimes it's like what you model that it follows. Sometimes it's adding rules that just to be like, no, really, don't do this thing. And it's a constant fight, and it's one that you have to be aware of. And any fix you have to like try it out and see how it works. So I can talk about this for the whole episode, but that's not our point here. But thanks for carving out that little spot of time for this, because this is a problem every AI agent faces, and yeah, we're gonna face
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Maybe you'll get an opportunity to show some of that at some point, either in this episode or another one. But
Or another one for sure.
yeah, I'm sure people will find that interesting. All right, let me see. All right, so we've got the sprint content and experience here. So validation from the lived experience and basic market search felt surface level. That feels like we don't want people walking away wondering if they covered everything during this. It should feel pretty comprehensive, or at least give next steps of, here's something we didn't cover that in depth. This is what you should do next. Um, it's pushing hard towards building and maybe not as much for validation, which is interesting. Like maybe there is, in a lot of contexts, more work that users should be doing before they go build. Allowing it to look at screenshots or URLs for reference instead of just text. It doesn't ask about budget, which might affect the scope later on. The aha moment guidance was suggested too late in the flow. It should come earlier. Adds unnecessary complexity instead of nudging toward a simple, accessible MVP scope. This one's pretty interesting because I think we would want there to be nuance here, right? And maybe some of that budget and what people are really imagining here comes into play instead of always suggesting a bigger, complex MVP build that's many months. What kind of circumstances would warrant something simple? Monetization felt like an afterthought. It doesn't ask about users' underlying motivation, like personal versus financial, which might affect how you prioritize things. It never suggested like maybe don't do this, even when the user started questioning their own idea. And then the product naming suggestions didn't consider domain availability or trademark conflict. So these are really good feedback. And I think these are interesting too, because it's something that might vary between even people who run sprints and what they end up asking about or covering in a session. And how might we take the best of what everybody asks about and thinks about here and build that into this experience.
Yeah, these are really fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you again to all the alpha testers who took the time to write these down. It's so valuable for us. Were you going to say something else about that section before I scrolled over here?
No, it's spurring a lot of ideas that make me want to be like, oh, we could do this. Oh, we could do this. Yeah. But I'm going to hold back.
I know, it's that temptation, right? So this is the last one here. So this one's around trust. People wondered if they could trust the technical advice. Some people wondering if it would fit for a more complex product because they felt like theirs was pretty straightforward. They couldn't find the privacy information after logging in. They wanted the LLM to be more opinionated, bringing more research instead of just kind of feeling like they were in an echo chamber. And the model seemed biased towards like, go build this thing, rather than questioning some things, which is interesting. So yeah, these are great.
So cool. We have, I don't know, this looks like 50-ish, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Tickets. And like this was from, it looks like 6 or 7 people that gave this feedback.
Yeah, less than 10. Oh, I didn't go for this summary here, which might be nice to bring it back to something encouraging. But this doesn't actually encompass every single person whose feedback I have included here, but from a certain segment of like people who submitted via a form.
Got it.
6 out of those 7 people said they would use it again. Clarity improved. 7, so everybody said the artifacts were better than what they would have made on their own.
Nice.
Their favorite artifacts were the sprint export, the critical path, features, market, and competition.
Okay.
And then the skippable ones that they didn't care as much about were the kickoff, the back burner, and the task list.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So with that in mind, like, okay, so we have, let's just say, right, around 10, a little less than 10 maybe, people providing this feedback. If you are a new founder, you'd probably have about the same. If you had an existing product that you were collecting feedback from, you might have 10x or 100x the feedback. How do you then like, so like, what do we do with it? How do we jump on it? How do we keep from just like, that looks fun, I'm going to work on that?
Yeah, it's definitely important to take that time to step back and say, how do we make sure we're focused on the right things? Because to your point, teams are going to have different things that feel the most exciting, or even biases towards like what they think is most valuable. So with that in mind, I'm going to scoot over here and show our matrix, and I'll talk a little bit about how I set this matrix up. So usually I have these matrices during a sprint, and we call them an assumptions matrix because normally we're taking all the assumptions that come out of the earliest parts of the sprint and trying to figure out which ones we need to build a prototype around or do some research around to validate, because they're going to be the riskiest towards building something that will thrive in market for real, or whatever the kind of scenario that you're working towards is. Maybe you're trying to get investment or whatever. So
yeah. Okay.
Usually the axes on that matrix are unsure if true, and on the other side it's sure that it's true. And then we also have high risk if false, or low risk if false. So those are the two matrices usually. And what we want to do is sort our assumptions and then look at the quadrant that is high risk if false and also unsure if true, because that means that we need to do some research. We need to devise a method for figuring out and feeling more sure. And then also, if we're wrong about it, it poses a real risk to the success of the product. So it allows us to really focus in on a set of assumptions there and put the most effort into those. For this, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So just to make sure that like I'm grabbing it and understanding it correctly, like the goal of that particular matrix is like, if you're looking at it maybe at a higher level, it's like, okay, what are the things that are most likely to just like tank this product altogether? So like if I have an assumption that, I don't know, people like going to the movie theater. If the whole thing is dependent on people like going to the movie theater, that is that's like a high impact one. But then we might have some amount of evidence that we're like, yeah, we're pretty sure that people like going to the movie theater. So it's like, okay, so we've identified it, but we don't really need to work on this. But maybe the assumption is people are willing to pay over $30 for a ticket. And we're like, we don't really know. And if people aren't, then they're not going to do it. So we're like trying to focus in on, let's act here first. Let's research here first. And here's other things that we've like documented, but these are like, we can't validate everything probably, right? Like we can't work on everything. And so it's about like picking and choosing like what's our next step. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And that was a really good example of the pricing there, because that would be a big deal. If you really need to set your price at $30 and no one's willing to pay it, well, you're in trouble there for your product. So, yeah, exactly. You've totally got it.
Cool.
So I thought for digesting some of this feedback, the matrix is a nice tool, but those two axes don't really make sense because we're not talking about assumptions. We're talking about feedback from users here. And so if you're going to use a matrix, I think the key is to always have your goal or kind of problem statement in mind. And so for us right now, as we are working on ReadySetGo, two things that we really want to happen in the near future is we are trying to get to market somewhat quickly, right? We don't have years and years to just keep researching on this and experimenting. So that's where the high effort and low effort comes in. We don't want every single task to be super high effort and take us weeks and weeks, because it just delays us making progress.
Sure.
The other side of this is that we want this to be a hit when it goes to market. So we don't want people to jump in there and then they're like, I don't know, I had some weird experience and I'm not gonna come back and I'm not gonna recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
And so that's where I chose the likely to turn users away or unlikely to turn users away. And depending on what stage your product is in, or what kind of problems you're trying to solve with your team, and maybe you have a narrower scope for the kind of feedback you're digesting, like your goals could look really different. And I would encourage you to think about like, what are the two opposite sides of that spectrum and which one do I care about more? Like, which is the higher kind of risk? So for us, the likely to turn users away and low effort is a nice place to start for us to make a bunch of progress, right? But we've still got, and I made this yellow as sort of like a warning. This is my designer brain. I can't help but color code everything. But we've also got this like other quadrant, which is it's still likely to turn users away, but they might be higher effort. And so looking at some of these and maybe identifying the ones that fall closest to this like top corner here that could be really likely to turn users away, like they might still be worth us taking some time, or maybe having at least a parallel track to some of these lower effort ones that we can begin to tackle. And so, yeah, this might look different for lots of different products, but I think this kind of works for us right now.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think the likely, unlikely to turn users away really important, because I like a lot of founders go to a lot of networking events and they're talking with other founders, and like I think they're sharing, hey, I'm struggling with my idea. How do I do it? Someone that's gone through this experience then has that moment where they're like, I tried Ready, Set, Go. It wasn't great. Or I tried Ready, Set, Go, and I really feel confident afterwards. Like that's going to have this huge multiplicative effect on people actually coming to the product and wanting to use it. And then internally, like the low effort, high effort, for us, that's also important because some people are working on this like in a dedicated way. They know they're going to have a week or 2 weeks to focus on a particular thing. And some people are like, it's an investment day Friday. I've got some time. What can I pick up? Mm-hmm. So being able to like identify like these are the quick wins that we can grab, and also the ones that we need more focused time. So, all right. Cool. What do we do now? I see you put them here. How normally, like, how would you do this with a team? Would you like everyone, like you read one aloud and you sort of decide as a group where it goes?
Yeah, good question. So normally what I did was I just made a copy of all the sticky notes from over here and then just put them in a quadrant. And normally I have the team, maybe we're a group of 4 or something, do this all at once. So everybody just kind of grabs a ticket and puts it where they think it will go.
Like moving it around. Okay.
Yeah. And I just did this ahead of time to save us that effort. But then after that, we look at it and everybody kind of reads through the tickets and their placement on the matrix. And I encourage people to change the color of any ones that they think maybe should go in a different spot. So what I thought you and I could do right now is just look at kind of examples of what kinds of things we've placed in each quadrant. And if you disagree with where I've put them, that is great. We can have a discussion about it and figure out where they should go. I did just want to highlight that the reason that some of these are gray is because we've already done these. So awesome. I just wanted to show like where I would have placed them on the matrix. And one of the ones you just talked about before, the inappropriate stereotype. I think, this one. I guess this one's gray too. I didn't realize it was part of the same ticket.
Yep, we got that one done too. Good.
So yeah, those and just to kind of point out, these are ones that were maybe likely to turn users away, right? If they didn't like the language. This is hard to gauge too. I'm kind of making an assumption about what's going to irk people here, so you can disagree with this, but still like relatively low effort. We were able to tackle it within the scope of a couple days or something like that, I think. So that's an example of one there.
Okay.
So we can look at, unlikely to turn users away, but low effort.
Okay.
So some examples here, and maybe we can look at the more like extreme ones, right? So here we have a badge like discovery kickoff 1 out of 10 isn't explained. It's unclear if it's just a navigation hint. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is something that's going to cause somebody to never come back and use Ready, Set, Go again. There's enough other stuff going on around it to allow someone to jump into the sprint and make progress and continue on with their day.
Can we flip to the view of the app again?
Yeah, good call.
So like, what are they for this particular one? Do you know what where in the UI they're like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I assumed it was here, but let me go into the sprint. You know what I think it is? It's during the chat. Oh, here, down here.
I see. Okay. Yes, great.
Yes.
And for like, this was a genuine question, but it also highlights like as you're looking through feedback, make sure you understand what the feedback is for, because misinterpreting it can lead to all kinds of like confusion and misunderstanding of the effort required to fix it. So, okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad we looked because I actually assumed it was on the page before. So, so again, that's just an example. Maybe you disagree with me, but I just figured it's not a major feature that would probably turn somebody away, and it would be low effort for us to fix it. So it's kind of hanging out here in the corner.
Yeah.
the fact that the sidebar step titles don't match the titles used in the content, and these are two examples. You have problems versus problem statement. Again, I don't think that this is so far off that it's causing a ton of confusion and going to alienate somebody from the product. Would we eventually want to fix this? Yes, we want to get to every single one of these tickets. But in terms of figuring out where to really focus first, this doesn't feel like the most impactful place.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of thing that, like, if you have too many of these kinds of things, people get the feeling that your whole product is sloppy. So you don't want to get that far. But right now we're trying to launch, and we're not at that feeling. So I think, like identifying like, hey, if you've only got a couple hours and you want to pick this up, go for it. It's probably, 30 minutes to an hour worth of time. This is great. But if you're looking at the whole picture, it's the start of the week. Like, what am I going to work on? Right. These feel, I think these are perfect where you got them.
Cool. And so there's a few others in here that feel similar. And again, they're not maybe as far over to the unlikely to alienate somebody. Like auto renaming the sprint instead of typing your own title. Again, like would be nice, but I don't think anybody's going to never recommend ReadySetGo to another user again because we don't have that feature, right? So, showing clear progress. Again, this is like coming closer to the line of maybe somebody wouldn't recommend or come back to this product if we don't do this, but maybe it's not so strong that I've put it all the way over into that quadrant yet. So we still want to make the ticket for it. It can live on the back burner kind of, and we pull from it eventually, but not the first thing.
The only thing on this one is I think this might be higher effort. If I'm understanding what they're saying, and again, with all these tickets, like before you like start working on it, double check it. Like, is this hard or easy before you like go with that initial read? But like if we're talking about like it's generating something, I don't know if we have insight into how long it's going to take in a way that we can show progress or a bar or something. So I might be like the visible progress indicator while something's compiling. I would bump it up more to like the medium effort, or if we want to like tag it with like a little stamp in Figma with like a question mark, like we're not certain about this, or like we should spike on this to understand, is this difficult or easy? Right. Something like that. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good call. We can use different layers here. As an interesting note, not specific to ReadySetGo, I think a lot of what products do in those instances is like a fake progress. And it helps the heuristics for the user because they're like, something is happening, but it's not actually accurate. It's like, it might show it gets to 85 and then the rest takes like however long. But in reality, we have no idea how far into the process it is. So it could be that actually it improves the experience to do something like that here, even if we're not able to gauge the exact progress. Or maybe it's not that meaningful. And I think that's something we'd want to test and dig into, to your point, what is the effort there?
White lie indicator. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the auto saving versus having a save button. Like auto saving is actually like better because you don't lose any work, but people really like hitting that button. They want to feel like they saved it. And so sometimes you put one there just even though it's auto saving. All right. So those are some examples of what we have in that quadrant for higher effort. And please like correct me again on the effort for some of these. But the monetization treatment felt like an afterthought unless the user brought it up first. This one could be a little controversial, right? Because I didn't put it in the likely to likely to turn users away. Maybe it would, right? Like if all of our users are coming into this wondering how much should people pay for this product, then I think this would look different. In my experience, clients coming to us are not actually always asking that question. It's something they get to past the sprint stage. And so I think I would want to maybe dig into this a little bit more, which is why I put it in high effort. Like what are people actually trying to learn about monetization here? And
Yeah.
is it actually what they're expecting out of this experience? Because if not, then maybe it's something we tackle later on, or say, here are some tools you can use to figure this out past this sprint stage or something like that.
Yeah, this is really interesting because it's I have a lot of thoughts
Yeah.
um on some like different like avenues. One, I think just like on its own, like if we just look at this, like we should add a monetization step. Like,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, that probably is like higher effort. We have to come up with we have to come up with the phrasing, the guidance to the agent. We have to modify the UI. We're also now pushing against that sprint fatigue, right? Like if we add another step, now we're like, there's a different constraint that we're like making worse potentially. Um, and then it also makes me think back to one of the other um, feedback stickies that we had, which was around like, I think one of them said it never asked or it didn't, it never learned like whether this was for personal or for, for money reasons. Because for some
Hmm.
people, just launching is important. Don't care about the money. Other
Exactly.
people, if it doesn't make money, they're like, I don't want to pursue it for
Hmm.
whatever reason. And it's guiding me to think about, and again, I know we shouldn't solutionize here, but as we're looking at the tickets, it feels like some of them might be tied together. Like maybe we need some kind of little pre-interview to be like, is this personal or for money? If it is money, like if it's personal, then like maybe we skip the step. Like
Hmm.
adding the monetization could be for the person that said like this is important to me, and like maybe it even gets jumped up earlier. All in all, I do think this is a higher as given the feedback is higher effort. We might, as we then like start to look at individual tickets and think about like what we were going to work on, there might be some low effort ways to help this.
Yeah.
And maybe one of them is like in one of the steps, just ask the user about monetization and if they care. Like don't introduce a whole step yet, just see how it goes. So yeah, I just wanted to explore those thoughts.
Yeah. And I think that what you just kind of brainstormed out loud there um, is a perfect example of why it's really helpful to take a little time out, have a session like this around the feedback so that you can at least feel like we talked about this and we're going to keep it in this quadrant, or we're
Yeah.
going to move it somewhere else because we need to actually have a really much bigger discussion about this or something like that.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
What else we got?
all right. Yeah. So we've got these few are actually kind of like straddling the line here. Let it look at screenshots or URLs for UX and UI guidance and show graphic assets, not just text. So
Okay.
maybe this is not high effort. I'm not exactly sure. I know we've already talked about doing uploads, and I
Mhm.
assume that graphics could be part of that and digesting it could be part of that.
Yeah.
So
I know
yeah.
Ruby LLM. This one's actually interesting. Also, like if we could dig into it just a little bit. I know Ruby LLM supports. Um, I think they call it like multimodal something, like where you can upload images. Um, one, so on one hand, also that introduces a whole new attack vector for people uploading like harmful things, malicious things, trying to take advantage of the system. So on that level, it might actually be higher effort than even we think, even though it's like, oh yeah, Ruby LLM says it's easy, but it might require more on the security side to implement it. So with every ticket like this, you also have to consider what does it mean in the broader sense? Maybe now, as we're like a young product, probably not getting attacking users. If it's you out there, don't do it. Don't do it. We asked you. Um, related question, or like another question around this. I think we have something like this like already on our roadmap somewhere. So what do
Mhm.
you do when you're going through feedback and your instinct is like, yep, we know it, we got it, we have a plan? What do you do with that? Do you leave it here? Do you hide it? Do you change its color to like something else to be like already planned?
Mm. Yeah, good question. I mean, I guess you could change the color just for a practical purpose, like we're going to convert all these into tickets and you don't want to duplicate one.
Okay.
But I think there's a step beyond this matrix, which is putting it on your board, and you're going to
Okay.
end up prioritizing things on your board. So if it's already on your board, then I hope that as you're adding these other tickets, you're kind of measuring them in importance, like compared to that existing one and anything else
Okay.
that you already have on there. And then yeah, kind of keeping this broader context in mind of your matrix and also what's already on your board. Like you could already have some really important big things on there, and you want to think about how these fit in, even though they are in the very likely to turn users away kind of category. So yeah.
Awesome.
All right, I'm gonna move into the bottom quadrant here of low effort, but likely to turn users away. So these would be your tickets, like you brought up the great example of, we've got somebody who's dedicating some time to this on a Friday. Hopefully they could grab something like this and maybe finish it in a day or two. So I'll go into the extreme end here. So can't find privacy info after logging in. This feels like we could surface a link to our privacy info somewhere within the product, like really low effort, but builds trust. And if somebody can't find it, maybe they're like, I don't even know what this product is doing with my information. I'm going to stop right here. I'm not sharing.
Yeah.
Same with this, add a short explainer up front for what artifacts, trackers, then synthesis thread, and those types of things are. Again, low effort for us to write a little explainer. But if somebody is so confused that they don't really understand what the major pieces of UI or output in the app are for, that to me is something that may get them to not return to the product or recommend it. And so I thought that was a good example here.
Yeah, and also, if you're doing this with your team and any single person anywhere doesn't understand a term, that's a really big flag. Like if you are on the part of the company that is building this thing and you don't know what it means, like right now, I'm like, actually, if you ask me what's a tracker, I'd be like, I don't know. And I'm not even sure what it would be. Like now imagine the user that hasn't worked with this ever, they're seeing it for the first time, right? They're so likely to also be like struggling even harder. So yeah, I think this is positioned perfectly for, understanding the parts of UI, so important.
This is actually kind of interesting. So I'm just going to explain this one a little bit.
Sure.
I think this is something that happens so easily in products, like not just ours. So trackers is actually the label over here for trackers of the assumptions and backburner. Artifacts is what it's called over here. Oops. In the right sidebar. And it's also the backburner and the assumptions. However, the designer who worked on this originally thought of them as two different things because trackers was what was happening as you were building with the LLM. You're tracking the backburner ideas and the assumptions. But artifacts are the thing that you're exporting at the end. And so it's like this complete thing that's being, even though like it can change, it's the thing that is complete enough to like leave the app after. However, in practice, they open up the same panel, they show the same thing. And so this was a discussion we had recently, and we already have a ticket around this in the backlog, which is, or in one of the columns, which is just to make them named the same thing. We decided it would be less confusing. But I think it's really interesting how people's mental models might change the way you kind of name something or think about something in an app. And it's really important to get feedback like this and understand, actually, nobody else is thinking of it that way. And so we should do it this other way.
Nice.
All right, we looked at a few of these that we already did. And so these were some bugs too. So around the sprint getting stuck in a certain state, we definitely don't want that. And we've already addressed those. And we talked about the stereotypes. So like bugs like that, where you just can't make any progress, obviously very likely to turn a user away and make them not recommend it to anybody. These were, I think, relatively low effort based on how quickly I saw those tickets move through the board. Chad will have to correct me if I'm wrong on that, how many hours he spent. But yeah, those are some good examples there. So
what do you do with that one? What do you do with that one? So the AI bot speak got annoying. So we have worked on it. We have opened PRs. We have merged those PRs. Like, I think there've already been multiple passes through to fix this problem, but we know it's still going to be a problem. Like, how do you handle those kinds of like, this is an ongoing thing we have to keep a pulse on?
That's a really good question. I didn't know that history of it, so that's interesting. And for context, like I'm a little bit newer to joining this project full time. So yeah, I think If it keeps coming up, that's actually a really good signal that it's going to be high impact if you tackle it, and that maybe it's worth actually like bringing higher in the queue. So this isn't necessarily a one-to-one, but I'd say it's a pretty good signal that if you're hearing things over and over again from multiple users, it's probably really noticeable and it's a big deal for people. Whereas if you see one ticket one time, I think you should think about whether that's really affecting everybody. So we got 2 of these now, and it sounds like we've gotten feedback like that from other people in the past. Maybe that is worth like, maybe we need to seriously spike on this with a few people to sit down and see what impact can we have. And if we can't impact how it's speaking, like what can we do around the experience to help with that? Or how do we even address it maybe?
Yeah, it's tough because it's like, again, AIs, right, aren't deterministic. They're going to say what they're going to say. And so you just keep trying to find like workarounds.
Yeah.
But this is one that definitely impacts how people feel about it. And yeah, we don't want this feeling. This is key to the experience.
I agree. Yeah. And I think some of those around trust, which I think, did they make it here or up here? Yeah, I put them in higher effort because I think it would require some thought here. But yeah, they're kind of in the same category. It's like I don't really like the experience of the LLM. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, right?
Yep.
All right, just to kind of breeze through a few of these, we've got, again, like some unclear language, anything that falls into that this is confusing bucket, I think is likely to turn people away and make them feel a little weird when they're using it. But some of them are pretty easy for us to fix. So making things really obviously clickable or really obviously not clickable, or consistent naming or something like that. Making the artifacts downloadable, maybe like slightly higher effort than just renaming something, but I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Probably not.
Maybe not. And people expect it to be. So like that could be an easy win for us. All right, let's look last but not least, certainly, at the high effort and likely to turn users away. And I think these are some really interesting, more like heady topics. So one of them was the trust, right? Like I wondered if I can trust its technical advice. How well will it validate a more complex idea? Yeah, some of those trust issues, it feels like there's so many different ways to approach that. Which is why I put it in higher effort, because I think it'll take a little bit of effort to decide with our team, or for whoever's like watching this, if you have a similar kind of issue or thing that you're tackling with your team, to decide like what is the best first approach. What do we feel most confident kind of putting out there and testing next? Because it does feel like something that needs to be validated a bit. And so, yeah, again, it's one of those things where I, like you, want to jump into solutions right away and have all these ideas, but doing some sketching and just kind of coming to an agreement with the team and some light research, I think would go a long way there. So that's a little higher effort. All right, the other big category of things in here is around the idea of fatigue and feeling like, wow, this took longer than I thought. I didn't really want to read all this text. I wasn't sure when I was done. I don't feel like very rewarded by going through that long process, which was longer than I thought. And so this idea around like making it feel fun, even if it takes longer, or at least giving accurate estimates and making it less tiresome to go through a sprint. Like we do not want people to go through this effort and feel exhausted at the end. Like ideally it should feel energizing, right? Like, oh, I have, that's how we feel when we do real sprints. I love the end of the week where you're just excited about what you've come up with. And even if the result is like, don't pursue this idea, having the confidence to say that and knowing that you're saving somebody a ton of time, a ton of money and other resources, like that can feel really good. And so yeah, we want that to be the experience, which,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like for me too, like I have been in a number of in-person and also remote shaping sprints, and they're some of the funnest times I remember. Like I remember things from 7 years ago, like those sprints, what it felt like to be thinking through an idea and to be working, with the founders. Um, and yeah, like what we want to do is capture that, right? And it's harder, right? Because for the most part, it's you and the agent. Although I don't know, maybe we could suggest to people like, hey, if you have a co-founder or if you have people like that you would consider, I don't know, trusted advisors, like that you would say like maybe you could do it together. But even if you're doing it like one on one, you and the agent, yeah, like how can we bring some of that? This is exciting to the to that feeling to this experience. And someone somewhere mentioned in one of the feedbacks was like the aha moment took too long to get to.
Mhm.
Um, and that made me think like right now as we're talking about this, I think you forget how long something took if you have a powerful aha moment.
Mhm.
Like I'm not like if we can get to more of those moments throughout the sprint, like earlier as that user was suggesting, like if we could have some earlier aha moments, that's its own like it feels like that could be its own like dopamine inducing. Oh good, oh good. I didn't think that. I missed that about the market. I missed that about demand. Oh, that is a huge assumption. Um, like it's like, do we need an aha tracker?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
something
was
like
kind of
that.
thinking the same thing as you were talking, and again, I'm trying so hard not to think of
Yeah.
solutions, but, I think things will hit differently for different people going through this, and so, yeah, maybe there's a way to mark, like, "This was a big deal for me." Maybe the LLM doesn't even notice that it's a big deal, but it's a big
Yeah.
deal for you, and being able to bookmark it some way and say, "These were the most important, outcomes," or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. That would be interesting data for us to be able to see too. What are people bookmarking?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think we've been talking about this a little bit for the past week or so. I have an assumption, which I would need to test, calling it out as an assumption, that back in the day before we were a remote company, we did a lot of in-person sprints, and I think those are the ones where you're with somebody in a room like 8 hours or whatever. You share lunch together, even. So um, you're getting constant kind of dopamine hits and feedback, even in the form of body language or other things from the people
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
room with you. And so I think it's easier to stay engaged. You talked a little bit about the idea of body doubling, like just having the physical presence of somebody near you doing work is more motivating than just doing it on your own in a separate space. So I think in person you get that, right? For virtual sessions, we actually try to break them up a little bit. We give people breaks. They can go get a coffee. We say we're
Right.
going to regroup and we're going to meet back up with the client in a couple hours, just to kind of keep that momentum going, and not kind of burn out on just sitting on a call, because it is less energizing to be on a call versus in a room with somebody where you can walk around and I don't know, exist differently.
Yeah.
So, and to take that one step further, now we're talking with an agent. There is no other person, even on a camera, talking to you like you and I are now. And
Right.
so, you're removing those like dopamine hits and that social aspect more and more as you're getting further from it. So, how do we add those back in this product that doesn't have a human to do it for us? And I think that is where this feels really high effort. Like, I don't know exactly the answer to that question. Is it what you proposed? Like, is it telling everybody, like, do this with a buddy? Is it a fake buddy? I don't really think so. I don't think an AI, like, fake person is going to do it. But, like, what is the answer there? Is it making you play a game in the middle of the sprint? Is it
Yeah.
something else? So, I think there's so many ideas to explore here, and I'm excited to tackle it. But it definitely feels high effort and something that's absolutely worth tackling.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, right. Even as you're talking about, I'm like, oh, ideas, ideas, ideas.
I know, I know. You know what? I've changed my mind a little bit on this for
Yeah,
sprints over the past few years. I think the rule in like the Google Sprint book is like you do not talk about solutions. Nobody is allowed to talk about solutions until you're like maybe sketching or something, right?
sure.
I find that some of the best conversations I've had with clients are when you get to speak naturally and say, well, what about like this thing? Or what about, I've seen people try this. And naturally, you have a normal conversation with person, and some good ideas may come up, or we may say, oh, we already tried that, it didn't work, or something. So I tend to be a little bit more flexible about letting people ideate as we're early on in a sprint.
Okay. I will then. Now I'll throw one out there.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that you get on a sprint, like even when we do an in-person shaping sprint, it is still mentally taxing. Like you feel it. I mean, and you worked at it for 6 to 8 hours during the day.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get a break. You get to sleep. You get to go home. You get to synthesize everything you thought about, and you come back the next day fresh, maybe with new thoughts, maybe with new perspectives. And so it feels like in some way, like either we're forcing, like, and we tell the user you can save and come back anytime, so like they know they can, but something is pulling them through. I have to keep going, and then they're feeling exhausted at the end. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are ways that we could get around that. We could be like, we're going to go through one a day, and you're done with today's step. You've done it.
Yeah.
Here's the reward. Here's the thing. Maybe it's 2 steps, whatever. Like, but at some point, like clear breaks where we're like, go think about what we've said. Come back tomorrow with a paragraph, like write a paragraph for what you synthesized overnight. Come back tomorrow fresh. And we let them experience this, not over 2 hours in one night, but over a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think like all these things are worth exploring, right? And seeing what kind of feels like the best first approach. As you were saying that, I was thinking about something we've been talking about recently, which is a voice to text. Is it better if you get to come back that next day and just talk, and it records you talking and all your ideas that you came up with in your sleep? and and maybe that's more rewarding as a way to kick off the next part.
For sure. And that could even be the whole experience. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have delivered that before. It is not technically difficult. There
Mm-hmm.
there are plenty of tools out there to allow the user to just speak, and maybe
Exactly.
that would feel better to them. A different
Exactly.
experience.
I actually, Louis, I'd love to hear from you because I started to collect some data around this problem. And a while back, I had asked the designers at our company what sprint exercises they lean on the most and always do with clients. And there's kind of a core set, and then there's some like, well, if it's this type of client, I do this one. And if it's this type of client, I do this one. And so I have a little bit of that data, and I thought making sure that we have those sprint exercises in our sprint experience would be a good place to start. Yeah. I also asked people, why are sprints rewarding to you? What is the best part about doing a sprint? And some of the responses were around looking back at a sprint board. Here I have like a little screenshot of one. It's so much stuff. It's so many notes. It's so much work. And looking at it and thinking like, wow, we did so much. It's like when you've written a really long paper and you just keep scrolling through the pages to see like, wow, I wrote all that, That's
or going on a vacation and looking at your pictures after the fact and like, oh my God, we did so many things.
We did that. Yeah, exactly. It's that reflection afterwards and being really proud of it. We talked about aha moments a little bit. So there's definitely that's like a big hit. Like, oh, we wouldn't have realized this if we didn't do the sprint with you. That's a great moment to see a client go through. And just building that confidence. But I asked designers, I had an assumption about a client here, and there's more research to be done. I'd love to hear from you as a developer who has participated in sprints. Like, you said they're some of the best times you've had. So what are some of your favorite parts about a sprint?
I think so often as a developer, and I'm going to speak for outside of Thoughtbot because I think the Thoughtbot experience is different. So often as a developer, you are just given a task. Mm-hmm. You're like, go do this thing, go implement this feature. And maybe you have agency and support in saying, wait, why? And maybe you don't. Maybe you're just like, that's my job and I'm going to deliver this feature. And I might not even know what the bigger picture is. I might not even know why I'm building a thing. And at least for me, that's a big part of the reward I get, is that I shipped something and someone else's life is better because of it. Like there's a real thing out in the world that they interact with that causes
Mhm.
them to feel emotions, happiness, satisfaction, anger, frustration, uh, neutral, like bored, like, and my work affects them. And so
Yeah.
now in a sprint, I get this opportunity to think about the bigger picture, to think about whether it's like, what is this whole thing gonna allow someone to do? Um, but then also think about it at the little, like the zoomed in level, the when I'm going through this set of forms, I hate forms. How can I make this easier for someone else? It's
Mhm.
a chance to think outside of like the day to day and really think about from the user's perspective, what's this thing I'm going to build? So that's part of it for me, is that being included in that high level, but also micro level of what's this thing going to be that we build. Um, Another thing for me that is rewarding is the chance to push back like early
Mm.
on the really difficult ideas. Like, because sometimes people are like, let's build this thing. And you're like, oh my God, that's going to be 6 months.
Yeah.
And so to be able to call out early on before it gets like entrenched in a plan and somebody's Gantt chart and somebody's release date, to be like, wait, what are we really trying to solve? Because
Mhm.
what you're asking sounds good, but has these limitations. And being able to sort of catch that early feels like, whew, dodged one. Like the whole team dodged one. Um, so that's rewarding. I think uh, another part is, this is gonna be harder to like bring into the Ready Set Go experience, but for me, like getting to interact with the founder
Mhm.
and hear their ideas firsthand, see their excitement, see what their worries are. Um, and I would I would imagine, like, I'm trying to remember if I have like if, has anyone individually said this, but like for them to see on the other side, wow, all this stuff that I didn't think about, or I feel like I'm in a better place at the end of it. And knowing that I was part of the group that got them there, um, that's part of like why a sprint feels rewarding. Which I guess if you reduce it to the end, it's like I put this person in a better place.
Yeah.
Like every app is a gamble. Everything at the end of the day is an assumption that it will work, that the word will get out, that people will be in the right mindset.
Yeah.
So increasing that chance that it lands with people and that they adopt it, um, knowing that I was part of that, that's really rewarding.
Totally. And I'm saying founder here. We said founder a few times, but it could also be some whoever's owning the
Yeah.
product that we're
Yes.
going to.
Yes.
It could be a later stage product as well.
For sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Knowing that they feel more confident, that we de-risked some things. I worked with a client not that long ago who was really excited about a specific technology, but their product involved minors. And there were actually legal implications of using that technology with minors. And so we got to research that and talk through it
Mhm.
and look at other options throughout a sprint process. And that I think puts them in a much better place for identifying those risks ahead of time while still having something to pursue at the end of the engagement. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, another thing another thing that came to mind is sometimes, kind of like we were just talking about with like having a user voice their thoughts, or like, physically talk to the agent. Um, During a sprint, you can have a lot of opportunities where someone might think, I want this thing, but that's going to be too hard. Like, how do we even do that? I
Mm-hmm.
need to think of a simpler idea. And you're like, no, actually, that's not bad. Like, we could do that in an afternoon. Like, we do that in a couple of days. You're like, and that, like, that moment of, oh, really? Um, just because of like, as you get like, we're in the trenches. We're seeing what trends are. We're seeing what tools are released. Sometimes it's word of mouth. Like, I've learned about things in sprints from other people who are like, oh, there's this tool that I never knew existed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, oh my god, that unlocks so many things. So being in an environment where you learn that maybe your idea is easier than you think it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's really great.
Yeah, absolutely. Plug for consultants here, because we hear so many things across projects, and the amount of times that you reference something from one project to the next is massive.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, these are really great. I really like some of these ideas. What I would love to do is to get some participation from other folks working on Ready Set Go to maybe do a little bit of sketching around some of the ideas and some voting on those sketches to see where do we feel most strongly is kind of the first direction we should pursue. And I keep saying the first one because I don't think that doing an exercise like that means that you're scrapping all the other ideas or saying you'll
Mm-hmm.
never tackle them. It just means that it's the one you feel for whatever reason you should tackle first. And that might be because it's low effort and you can try it easily, or it might be because everybody feels most confident around it, or it might be the thing that's most likely to make you money. Like it
Yeah.
just it depends completely on what the idea is and what your goals are. So I'm excited to move this forward a bit.
Yeah. So yeah, so if we zoom out to sort of where we are with our matrix and everything, like
Yeah.
um obviously we have about 10 minutes left here. And probably a few more general things we could talk about. Um so next steps here would be like, is it, yeah, tell me again, like sort of if you were like, I'm gonna work on, or I don't know, maybe you are gonna work on this for the rest of the day, like what is the literal next step? Let's say everything is positioned perfectly.
Yeah, I think it would be converting them into tickets and
Okay.
comparing them against what you already have in the pipeline. This idea of like sprint fatigue and making it a more enjoyable experience overall is something we've already put a ticket on. And so
Mhm.
something that, as you saw, I've already started thinking about a little bit. And we've got some other tasks in there that are a bit time sensitive. So, you just weigh it against that basically. I think we do a generally good job of trying to break tickets down into realistic, achievable chunks
Sure.
for one day of work or so. This one's obviously a little bit bigger, but yeah, trying to think through that and triage things a bit.
Okay. One thing as I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, cool, right. Add tickets. And then I think of, our project board, which we're doing in GitHub, and it has your typical columns. I don't remember exactly what they are, but it's nothing revolutionary. It's like, wait, if you grab any one of these and you put it into a ticket, it feels like we're going to lose all the nuance of everything we just did here because, like, I don't know. We have a column of up next and we have a column of backlog, which I think is pretty typical for people. And maybe some people like use, t-shirt sizes or pointing tickets, which I'm mostly against uh, for different reasons that we shouldn't get into here. But in general, like how do we keep there's so much information in this picture. How do we keep that if we've moved it somewhere else? Like is it labeling things like likely to turn away? Is like
Yeah,
yeah.
honestly, my answer might be oversimplified, but I think it's the priority that you put them in. It should translate into priority. The whole reason behind doing this matrix in the first place was trying to figure out where's our next focus, where can we be most impactful. And so
Sure.
I would think that those are the things you want to tackle first. And so for whatever reason that is, whether we discuss it through the format of a matrix or in a planning meeting, or leadership came down and decided this is the most important thing, we don't always get that context of why it's most important in a ticket.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting it's like we shouldn't ask for it. Hopefully, when somebody writes a ticket, you can include some of that in written format. We can also link to the matrix, but generally, I think the priority should suggest like this is what our group has decided is going to move us forward in the most direct way possible. And
Okay.
that could look maybe like a mix of high and or large and kind of small tickets here in the terms of
Yeah.
like high effort and low effort.
Because I'm thinking, like, especially for people that are just jumping in, they're coming in on a Friday, work has shifted. They might even be first time working on Ready Set Go. Like, there could be a high priority item,
Mm-hmm.
and they might not know this is easy or this is hard. So I think, I don't know. I know at one point when we first started, we had almost like a low hanging fruit and this is going to take longer columns so that
Yeah.
you could focus in on one. And I think we've been growing, trying things. I think we got rid of it. Like, going through this exercise makes me feel like we need something to give a person a clue of I need a palate cleanser and something small to do, or I've got a week here and I want to dig into something heavier.
Yeah, and maybe there is a good way to reflect that on the board. I guess I would leave that for a PM to maybe
Sure.
devise a good system.
Okay.
Or we can try something and see how it goes. I think we recently switched from the low hanging fruit to bugs and other things
Yeah.
to just having like a ready for dev and ready
Yep.
for
Yep.
designer column. And I think it echoes the same sentiment here, which is that if it's the highest priority thing, it's the highest priority thing. Like, if a bug
Okay.
is a really high priority,
Hmm.
then it should go to the top of the ready for development column. And it doesn't
Okay.
matter. Like, it kind of simplifies things in a way, right? Like, you've one column to look at. You know what is the most impactful thing you can do, and it's the thing at the top of the column. You don't have to look at, oh, do I have this much time? Do I have this much
Sure.
time? And I would hope that there's still nuance in the description to understand, like, oh, this is a big deal. The other thing I would say is, like, depending on how your team functions, you have touch points, you have opportunity to talk to people. And so, for instance, I picked up a ticket at the beginning of last week because Chad told me it was really important. And so I said, great, I will pick up that ticket. It was also the highest one in the next column. So
Okay.
hopefully that reflects. I don't know. I think people, I would be curious to hear other people's kind of thoughts on that, and maybe other systems that work for them, or if you have a preference. Like, I totally understand wanting to come in on a Friday, make an impact with something quick. So I don't know exactly what we kind of add to our system to achieve that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And like with all systems, part of the thing is you don't want the cost of implementing the system, right, in terms of time, to outweigh the benefit that it gives people. So uh,
Exactly.
a lot of exploring, a lot of trying things. So and we only have about 5 minutes left. I I wanted to see if we had any specific last things to talk about. And my my list here is being stubborn.
Oh, I do have one question you
Yeah,
mentioned beforehand that we could talk about for a couple minutes.
let's do it.
Which is, how do you weigh feedback from really important people? So, all of this feedback we just treated as the same level of importance, if you will. But
Yeah,
let's say you have a stakeholder for your product that is really influential and opinionated, and they're going to come in and say something.
right.
How do you treat that feedback? I don't know. Maybe you want to answer that question first, and like take a stab at it afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, so like to give an example, like, I don't know, maybe there's something that it feels like it's, let's say, pushing towards high effort, and maybe it's a little more towards, like, if what they're saying you're like, yep, that's low effort, high impact, like, we're just gonna work on it, right?
Mhm.
Like, that, there's no question there. Like, of course, let's do that. Um, I think the struggle, the conflict that can happen is when they're suggesting something that maybe it is not necessarily the best thing to be the next priority. Maybe it is a higher effort, and maybe it's unlikely to turn users away. Um, so, like, as a consultant, putting on my consulting hat, um, I think the first part is understanding why, because sometimes you don't have all the pieces of information that they have. Maybe they have maybe they have an investors meeting, and the investors have said we need to see this,
Mhm.
and it's really not about the users, but it will impact the users if they don't get the funding, let's say. Um, so I think understanding why they feel like this one is important. Maybe they've had 6 projects. Like, maybe they're like, I've done this 6 times, and this has ruined us every time when we didn't do this. And you just don't know that yet, right? Like,
Mhm.
they haven't shared it. So first step, communication, understanding, why is this a priority? Why are you feeling it? maybe that resolves it right there. Maybe you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do it. Of course, then the second part is whatever you're working on means you're not working on the other things. So if everyone on the team agrees, like, yes, this is the next thing on the priority list, then cool, we're great. It's going to push everything down a little bit. That's okay. I think maybe making sure that that person understands, especially if what they're asking is going to have a bigger impact. Like here, we're not talking about huge tickets, but if they're saying like, no, let's say there's a data restructure and it's going to take us like a month of effort to do this change because of what our users have said. And you're like, okay, that's going to impact not just the next ticket, but like we're not going to be able to work on anything else for a month. Are you okay with all these other things being essentially deprioritized? Here's the like making sure they understand, here's the cost of doing this thing. And maybe they'll say, oh, you're right. Let's get it done, but maybe let's try to break it up into pieces. And maybe they'll be like, nope, this is the most important thing. We literally can't do anything else. And then sometimes you just have to go with it. Like ultimately it is their thing.
Yeah.
And the best you can do is offer advice, information, understanding, conversation around it, to help them also make the best decision. And in the case where you're like, given all those things, you still feel it's like the wrong call, I think then, and this is what I like about being a consultant, is that you have paid me to tell you no. You have paid me to stand up to you. Like this is why I'm here. And just like in the same way, people are talking about the agent, they're like, I feel like it just didn't push back enough. Like people are literally asking for pushback. And I think sometimes when you're high enough up in an organization, people there might not feel comfortable giving you that pushback. But literally you are paying me for that. You're not paying me to just do stuff. You're paying me, you're paying Thoughtbot. Like you are bringing us in as a team, as an individual to like push back when an idea really has issues. And so then those are the hardest moments, but I think that's where we like truly shine.
Yeah, I think you hit on almost all the things that came up for me as you were talking too. I totally agree. I think one of the hardest things that you should be aware of as you're working through things like this is your own biases or tendencies to maybe weigh different people's feedback differently. And so think about every piece of feedback as if it were given by like an intern at your company. Would you think of it differently versus, you know, the other person giving that feedback? Or would it still feel really important? And also that key thing that you mentioned at the end there, like really taking it outside of the context of who said it at all and thinking, you know, remove my own biases, like what do I want for the product or something like that, and think where's the evidence here that I can lean on to say yes or no or push back or provide nuanced response. And I find if you don't have any actual evidence and you can't think of anything, then you should recheck whether it's just personal preference and worth actually injecting, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good answer.
Awesome. All right, I think we are at a good stopping point.
Great.
But can we try something here, because I can't get to the button that is in the stream. Like I can't take it out of it, thinks it's not maximized, and I'm trying all the different ways to exit full screen and it won't, and I can't move the window. So if you have any last few thoughts, I'm gonna try and make that so that we can actually end the call.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just appreciate being able to come on here and talk to you about product thinking and ideas and how we really approach things like this. Being able to give airtime to our alpha users, alpha testers, and their feedback. So I hope that these are conversations that are happening in every product company. And if they're not, then I hope that whoever watched this gained something valuable by seeing an example of how we do it and triaged things. So hopefully this was valuable for the regular audience who's maybe used to more technical live streams.
All right, and I can confirm that for whatever reason, everything I have is completely locked up. So I'm gonna
Okay,
try
great.
removing, like I can't click on anything and have it act. I'm gonna try, this is a fun way. It's live, right? It's fun. I'm gonna try
Yeah.
removing my external monitor.
And we lost him. We'll see if he comes back. I'll give him another minute, otherwise I will leave too, and we will call it over. I see a comment from somebody actually from 12:35.